Conversations with Keith is brought to you by Craig Loftus State Farm Insurance, Near New Auto, Todd's Antique Mall, and Ace Hardware in Berea. Now here's your host, Berea Citizen publisher Keith Taylor.
Hello everybody, and welcome to Conversations with Keith. I'm Keith Taylor. I'm the publisher at the Berea Citizen, and with me today is Bruce Fraley, the mayor of Berea.
And Keith's friend.
Yes, sir, absolutely. Bruce is going into his second term as mayor of Berea, and has done, in my opinion, a phenomenal job. And kind of talk about your first term and what you accomplished and what you were able to get done in spite of a pandemic.
Sure, it's the first year, you know, that the first year was busy enough, and then to have the pandemic happen 1 year into the term was a little bit of a curveball. But I want to kind of stay away from the pandemic because I think we've all heard enough about it. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I think in the city of Berea that we did and we were successful in is that we were able to press through the pandemic that was a big unknown to everybody. I mean, we didn't know if the economy was going to collapse, if you know, there were many people that passed away, but we didn't know how bad that was going to be. We didn't know if it was going to be us. So all those unknowns were scary, but we were able to press through that and continue to do the business of the people and provide the services that the city needs to provide. And I'm with you, Keith. I would evaluate that first term as a very successful term as well, but none of that happens alone. As you know, it's a team effort. It's a team effort with our city council, our elected legislative body, with our boards and commission, which are citizens that work for no pay or very little in the case of a couple of commissions where people have a small stipend. And they work to make the quality of life better for the citizens of Berea and to make Berea's business environment better. And then also with the city employees and citizens that support the city as we move forward. And you got to do it together, including yourself and the Chamber of Commerce and working with you in your professional capacity through the citizen. All those things blend together. One thing I've always prided myself on is being a team builder, and I think that probably, I hope when people look back they'll see that we really did have a team environment in the city of Berea. People have their differences, but nonetheless, for the most part, we all come together. And one of the priorities, some of the priorities that I had going in, as you'll recall, you know, a major one was economic development. I felt like we had a lot of opportunity with the right type of effort and making the right type of contacts, and that's been very successful. We've expanded one of our largest and oldest employers. They've expanded successfully with our help and support. We brought in new industry from high-tech agriculture with App Harvest to advanced manufacturing with Hitachi Ostimo electric motor systems that will build the state-of-the-art electric motor for the Honda Accord and Honda CR-V. In addition to that, just this past year, for instance, we had 50 new small businesses. So the focus on economic development has been a balanced approach where we're focusing on large business, and we've been successful there. Helping entrepreneurs succeed and being supportive of small business, providing training. We've done that over the past 4 years, but also in the middle where you have commercial business, medium-sized businesses, including chain-type businesses, and we've been very successful there as well. So I think to have a good, robust local economy, you have to have that balanced economic development effort. And I mentioned teamwork as well. We have a great council, we have a great city staff. When I look at successes, I have to think about the people that the mayor has to do the hiring and anything to do with personnel, but I think we've hired some really quality people over the last 4 years. And we had a strong team coming in that's even stronger now, so I'm real proud of that. And in addition to that, we don't want to be isolated as a city. And one of the things that I really wanted to do in that teamwork approach was to reach out and to work cooperatively with the City of Richmond, with Madison County government, the judge and the fiscal court, but also with our major employers here in Berea, and also our educational institutions, the public school systems, in particular David Gillum and Madison County Public Schools, and also Dr. Diane Hatchett with Berea Community Schools. We've really worked collaboratively and cooperatively with both of them. and also our higher education institutions. Eastern Kentucky University and Berea College, they're both major employers, and they have assets and strengths that we should be able to help to utilize, and then be able to utilize the strengths of the city. So I think that you've seen that level of collaboration and teamwork throughout the 4 years, and I know you may want to go into some of the more specifics later, but in general, I think that's what I'm the proudest of out of the first 4 years.
And a lot of people are asking about the new bypass coming in, and what your second term, that's going to be part of the progress in your second term, but what about a target date for the bypass and some other specific goals that you have in mind for the next 4 years?
Sure. Well, the bypass, let's start with that. Since you asked about that first, I know everybody's really interested. And I'd like just to do a brief recap on that. When I was on City Council in 2018, early in 2018, we found out that the Phase 2 of the Berea bypass had no funding assigned to it and was basically falling off of the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet 6-year highway plan. So it had gone from being on the drawing board to off the books completely. And there were several of us that went to Frankfort and spoke with the chief of staff of the governor at the time, and also the transportation secretary, to and our elected officials as well, Senator Carpenter and others, to emphasize the importance of that bypass, not just to Berea, but to our businesses and our industrial park, and to people who commute into and through Berea to get to work. And that resonated, and we went on Thursday, and by Monday of the following week, literally 4 days later, we had it back on the books, fully funded for $24 million. The project actually is going to cost a little less than that, is my understanding. But that is a Kentucky State Transportation Cabinet project, but it is something that the city has to work collaboratively and be involved with. That really underscores the importance of being present in Frankfort and maintaining those relationships outside of the Berea bubble, is what I call it. You have to go beyond and make sure that people understand what our needs are. And that's one of the things that I really try to do in that first 4 years is to form those relationships, make the contacts, and make sure that we're bringing those types of projects to Berea. Specifically about when that project will be completed by the Transportation Cabinet, which, as you know, the contractor is the Allen Company. When you go by and look, you think, man, it looks about done, and it is. They finished the base coat, the base asphalt coat on that back in the fall, before the blacktop plant shuts down, and of course they have to shut down when it starts getting cold. You can't lay blacktop in the winter. And blacktop plants generally open back up in spring and April. So what I'm being told is it should be completed no later than the end of June of 2023. But I think it's possible, in fact probably likely, that it'll be completed sooner, because they don't really have that far to go. They have to put the finished blacktop coat on it, striping and paint that goes on the highway, and then it should be opened up, and that'll be something that's been over 2 decades in the making. And it's nice to go from hoping it might happen someday to getting it done. And that's a collaborative relationship with the Transportation Cabinet and our elected officials that helped to move that project along and make sure it got done. You asked a little bit about what some of my priorities are going into the next 4 years. And you always have things that come up that you have to deal with, but the bottom line, the purpose of city government is to do things for people that they can't afford to do for themselves. Providing fire and police protection, repairing potholes, keeping our streets up to date, creating recreational opportunities through our park systems. So we want to continue to focus on the basics in the next 4 years. And we want to make sure that the citizens of Berea, that we're investing the citizens' funds properly for the citizens for their use. That's why you and I and everybody pays taxes, where collectively we can afford good fire protection, we can afford good parks, we can have good ball fields. So those are all things that we want to work on improving. We do have a park master plan that was completed, that was done in my first term, something that we wanted to do to get input from the citizens on what do the citizens want to see in terms of parks and recreation going into the future. Not just what does Keith and Bruce or just a small group or the city council want to see, but let's look and survey the community in general. So we got really good feedback on that, Keith, and there are more projects and more on the wish list than we can afford to do, but we want to get started this year and get started in the next 4 years, knowing that we have a roadmap on how we can improve our park system. And that starts with making sure that our current infrastructure and our current assets in the park system are up to date and in a good state of repair. So we're going to begin on that this fiscal year in the next budget cycle. Another major project for the city, and this affects residents throughout Berea and also in southern Madison County, and it certainly affects our business community, and that is the Owsley Fork Dam Reservoir. That project has been being discussed since 1988, and I didn't say that wrong. 1988, when you and I were a lot younger, right?
Yes.
So what I found out when I came on council in 2017 is it had languished for that long, almost 30 years with basically no progress. And the idea behind the Owsley Fork Dam is to strengthen the dam structure itself, because residential development in the county, if you go out Owsley Fork Road, you'll see houses below the dam. So the Corps of Engineers and the NRCS, which is another federal agency, recognize that that dam needs to be strengthened, and they're paying for that. The city doesn't pay for that, the federal government does. But also in the same process, what the city wants to do is to raise the dam a small amount. I think it's 6 or 7 feet. Don't know exactly how much, but the bottom line is it increases the capacity, the storage capacity on the Owsley Fork Reservoir from 700 million gallons to 1 billion gallons. That will secure our pristine water source for the next 50 to 100 years. You know, long after we're gone, we can rest assured that those who come after us in the city of Berea will have adequate water supply for the future. So we're working on that, and we're at the 90% design stage right now. That all has to be approved by the federal government. We will have to pay some, but the federal government will pay most of that. And our utilities team is working really hard. We've got you have to have special engineers to design and do all the plans for construction and rehabilitation of a dam. But we're working with the federal government. We're forming those relationships. We're working at any areas that we need to improve on our plans. And then we have a local engineer that's been working with utilities forever that's out of Lexington. So between our engineers and our utility staff, I'm convinced that that project will get done in the next 4 years. I'm confident in that. I wasn't so confident when I was on council 4.5 years ago. But what we did at that time, Keith, to really move that project along, we engaged the staff of our congressman, our local U.S. congressman, and I learned that through my prior job. I worked for the federal government. I was with the Social Security Administration, and we would assist the congressman's office and answer inquiries for them all the time. So as a council member and a citizen of Berea, I became the constituent. So I talked to the folks that I knew in the congressional office. I said, look, we're having this problem. We couldn't get through the Corps of Engineers. Within short order, we got through the Corps of Engineers process and got their approval. Then the next step is to go to the NRCS, which is actually it's part of the Department of Agriculture, but that's the federal agency that works with any kind of dam construction or dam rehabilitation. And over the last 3 years, really, since we got the Corps approval, we've been working with them on the final design, and we're right at the finish line. We're 90% design. As soon as we get design approval, we'll go to bid and begin construction. So I'm really looking forward to that, and I think that's something that when you're looking as a mayor, you can't look up at the next 3 years or 4 years or the next year. If you're truly visionary and you truly want to do the best that you can do for your community as a mayor or any elected official or as like a state representative even, you have to be looking 20, 30, 40, 50 years down the road on what actions that we take now that are going to impact future generations. And I think in our economic development and our infrastructure improvements, such as the dam, such as the road systems that we've been advocating for and getting done, that those will have a generational impact on the city of Berea. And when I say generational impact, it's going to affect our children and our children's children and beyond. So that's something that I want to do, that I'm going to work hard at. And that's my other goal for the next 4 years, is to work just as hard in the next 4 years as I did in the first 4. And as you know, the mayor's job is a part-time position. I was in a unique position because I retired from the federal government and had a pension, defined pension from that, which enabled me to really work at this full time. And that's what I've been doing for the last 4 years, and will continue to do that. Of course, continuing to provide the very best services possible to the citizens and to our businesses through police and fire, through our public works, codes and planning, economic development, is a high priority. I can go into more detail about that, but I've probably gone into more detail than you expected me to on that question. So,
we're going to talk a little bit about Bruce Faley. A lot of people know Mayor Faley, but what about Mr. Faley?
I'm just a regular guy. I'm just like you or anybody else. I grew up here. I grew up out on Christmas Ridge Road at the very end in the woods, and went to Berea Community School, went to EKU, where I met my spouse, and she stuck with me all these years. Even she stuck with me with 4 years of being mayor, so she must really love me. But no, Linda and I we moved back home. I'd been with the Social Security Administration and worked all around the eastern and southeastern United States, working my way up, and the position in Richmond came open when my kids were young, and I was able to lateral into the district manager position in Richmond many years ago, and we've called Berea home, plan to stay here the rest of our life. We have 2 kids and 3 grandkids. Both kids are doing really well. One's a teacher, one's an operations manager for a manufacturing firm in Hopkinsville. And like I said, we love Berea, and we're committed to making the town better and to enjoying living here, because having lived other places, you realize the real blessing that we have here in Berea and the quality of life that's here, the recreational opportunities that are here, the cost of living's low, the crime rate's low. There's a lot of good things about Berea, and having lived in other places and moving back home a couple of decades ago, really helps me to see that, and I try to emphasize that as I go along. But that's a little bit about me.
What are your hobbies? What do you do when you're not mayor?
Oh man, I enjoy doing a lot of things. I'm trying to get back into walking. The older I get, the harder it is to keep the weight off. So I enjoy it when I can make time to walk. I love to get out and walk through town, because I see things and remember things from when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, when you used to walk everywhere through town. We really literally walked home from school back in those days when you were a little kid. But when you're on foot going through the streets of Berea, you see things that you don't see when you're in a car. So that's a hobby of mine, and I don't do it enough, but just getting out and walking and being around town. I love to fish. I don't fish enough. I like to boat. I love anything to do with the water. If I'm on the water, it's kind of like I'm at peace. So whether it's a creek or a small lake, or like Owsley Fork, or a larger lake like Cumberland or Barren River Lake, I like to be out on the lake. I like to fish a little bit, but really I just like to be on the water, and I love to be with my family. I don't get to spend enough time with them, but my kids and grandkids, I try to make an extra effort to spend time with them. Like to hunt. But I'm not a big time hunter, but my son and I have a little hunting cabin down in Metcalfe County, not too far away, where we spend time together. So those are some of the things that I enjoy doing for fun.
And you have a farm, is that correct?
I do. I have a farm on the north end of town, and we have a small cow-calf operation. I have a partner. He's a cattleman through and through. He was born and raised as a cattleman, and we make a good partnership and manage the cows. And I enjoy being out on the farm. It's a different way of life from the way that Linda and I spent the first few years of our marriage. We went from apartments to subdivisions, and you kind of know the drill. But living on the farm, we really enjoy it, and that's where I plan to stay. I built a house there 18, 19 years ago now, and that's where we plan to ride it out.
Thank you for being on the show with us today. We appreciate it, and we'd like to thank our sponsors. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there, and we have a good neighbor down the road with Craig Loftus, State Farm, one of our sponsors. Ace Hardware, if you need anything to do with your home, painting, whatever you need, materials at home, go to Ace Hardware in Berea. And we also like to thank Near New Auto. If you're in the market for an automobile, looking for something good to drive, that's perfect for you, go to Near New Auto. And if you're in the mood to go look for old things, like Bruce and I are getting old, so we know what that would be like. So just go to Todd's Antique Mall on Paint Lick Road and Cora Jane. Wilson will take care of you. And I was in there a couple of days ago, and I'm thinking, geez, there's a lot of stuff in here.
And she gets people from all over the country coming to see her.
Yes. So we'd like to thank our sponsors, and we appreciate them. And again, Berea Citizen, 133 Plaza Drive, Suite 6. If you'd like to subscribe to the paper, it's only $30 a year. And if you're a senior citizen, you get a 10% discount. Just call 859-986-0959. And again, we thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
And I need to talk to you about that discount.
We'll get it done. Oh, by the way, I'm with Debbie Warford, manager at the Berea Chamber of Commerce, and she has something very special going on in the month of February. Debbie, tell us all about it.
So February, we are doing our 14 days of Shop Small Berea. Now, don't take Berea literal because some of these places are in Richmond. But for your 14 days of Shop Small, we would love for you to buy your Valentine's gifts at one of our local businesses that's a chamber member. So we have a list of them on the back of all these flyers. You can find it on our Facebook page. We would like for you to go to these businesses. Take a picture there. Tag us on Facebook and tag their webpage as well. That gets you into a drawing. So the morning of February the 14th, we will be hosting a coffee conversation meeting at Chris Gilbert's, Edward Jones' office. So first thing that morning, 9:30, we're going to draw the winner for our large basket. And our basket is donations from a lot of these businesses. So we have gift certificates, we've got coffee. It's endless, and the gifts keep coming in. So it's going to be a huge basket. We'll definitely, share that basket out as it gets closer. But Shop Small Berea, 14 days from February 1st to the 14th. We'll get you in the drawing for that.
And don't forget, when you go, take a picture, put it on social media, and boom, you're entered for a basket. And one of those prizes could be something very special. A subscription to the Berea Citizen. Free.
Yes.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you for your donation.
You're welcome.
Conversations with Keith is brought to you by Craig Loftus State Farm Insurance, Near New Auto, Todd's Antique Mall, and Ace Hardware in Berea.